Not too many. The rest of you came from outside. Who here came from a long ways away? Anyone come from, where did you come from? London. Just for this? different things. And I'll be relocating to Bangalore in a couple weeks. So this is my new home. So hopefully I'll get a chance to meet some of you Bangalore folks, come up and meet me after the presentation, and love to get to know some of you, make my way around here. I love the city so far. I spent about 5 years in Delhi some time back, so I'm definitely spent quite a bit of time in India as well, but never really in the south. And it's great. It's really nice. So thank you all for coming, and thanks for being so kind as to stretch your legs and move up front. I appreciate it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about how we do education at Acquia and how we nurture technical talent. I know in India, it's kind of a big deal, right? Like, training is a big deal. You have a lot of people coming out of colleges. They come out pretty fresh, and these companies have to train them. And we have some different ideas about how training is done. And I think you might find it interesting and be able to use it. How many of you, just as a question, how many of you manage technical talent or train technical talent? There's no managers here? One manager? That's it? The rest of you, sorry, are you all programmers or academics? My mic on? Quiet? Okay. So let me just start with this. So I'm going to start then with a question to get things started. And this will be pretty interactive, so feel free to ask questions or respond. My question is, what was the first meal that you ever learned to cook? It's not a rhetorical question. It's not a trick question either. Coffee? That's not a meal, sir. I'm sorry. Maggi noodles? Yeah. I figured about as much. So for me, I grew up in the U.S. And I grew up a vegetarian. Which, are any of you vegetarians? Probably half of you or more. Any vegetarians ever been to the U.S.? No? Or Europe? Yeah. Well, especially nowadays, it's not so bad. But back in the 80s, when I was growing up, it was pretty tough. There wasn't a lot of options out there. So you go to a restaurant, and 9 times out of 10, the only option on the menu is the grilled cheese sandwich. The glorious grilled cheese sandwich. I believe you call it a cheese toast. Anyway. So I ate a lot of grilled cheese sandwiches growing up. And I am going to share with you my mother's secret grilled cheese recipe today. Okay? Ready? All right. So it starts with a seed. You take the seed, you dig a little hole, you put it in the hole, you cover up the hole with dirt, pour a little water on the seed. You wait, eventually it becomes a grass, the grass becomes a shoot. Then you chop it down, you take out a little bit, you put it in a mill, you grind it up into a fine flour, a powder. You mix it with some yeast and some water, and then maybe I should just skip to the next one. Okay, hold on. So, this is the best part. So when a mummy cow and a papa bull really love each other a lot, and they go out into the pasture, and maybe we'll just skip that one too. I'll just go on to the next one. So butter, I don't know how butter is made. We just get it from the store, But you put it all together, you throw it in a pan, and you get one of these beautiful grilled cheese sandwiches. And so I feel like, while it's kind of a silly example, I think this is how we teach technical stuff most of the time. Just one rote skill at a time. We say, okay, first you learn HTML, A to Z, then you learn CSS, A to Z, then you learn some programming or some templating, and then you learn some system design. And we teach one thing at a time. And what I'm going to advocate to you is that we have to teach based on experiences, not skills. We have to focus on the experience of learning rather than the skills that someone acquires through that learning. What I call the metacognitive autodidact grilled cheese hypothesis, which states that you learn to make grilled cheese by making grilled cheese. You learn to make grilled cheese because it's yummy, and you learn to make omelets accidentally. Okay? Bear with me. We're getting a little academic, but I'll go back to silly pictures in a minute. Just first, very briefly about me. I won't talk about myself too much. I've been at Acquia 4 years. How many of you have heard of Acquia? A couple? How many of you have heard of Drupal? More? Okay. So Drupal is a content management system, which has become very popular in the last 5 years. It now powers about 2% of the web, and including several well-known enterprise brands. Sony Music, Warner Music, the White House, Grammys, several federal agencies in the US, Disney, I could go on and on. We've been very successful. And Drupal is a huge open source community. By some estimates, it's the largest open source community of contributors in the world, larger even than Linux. And Acquia was founded by the founder of Drupal, a guy named Dries Boutert, really tall Belgian guy who talks kind of like this. And he's my boss, so hopefully he's not watching that. We've grown quite a bit in the last 4 years. We're the top of the Inc. 500 in the US, which means we're the fastest growing software company in the US. We're number 8 on the Inc. 500, number 1 in software. So yeah, the company's based in Boston. We want to start an India operation, and so they sent me here, and here I am, starting the India operation. Just primarily working with the system integrators and our customers with India bases, but also maybe some domestic business as well. If that's something you're interested in, talk to me after. That's not what I'm going to talk to you about. This is not a pitch, don't worry. Okay. Again, some numbers about Drupal if you're not aware of what Drupal is. Tool for making websites, globally adopted, heavily localization, user groups all over the world, very active developer community. And so what I'm going to do today, though, I'm just going to spend 25 minutes, because I know that people only have about 10-minute attention span, about 5 minutes with a smartphone. And here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to talk about 3 values about teaching, which I learned the hard way, and I screwed up, and here I'll share my lessons with you. We're going to watch a silly video for a few minutes, and then we can get into some specific hacks that you can use if you manage technical talent or you're trying to learn something that I find are effective. Okay? So here we go. The biggest problem right now with Drupal, like I said, commercially we're not having a problem. We're selling like crazy. We have no problem selling, which is great. That's a great problem to have. Our problem is that, the best kind of problem is that we can't hire fast enough, and so we've been forced to train. So at Acquia in Boston, we just could not find experienced Drupalists to take the roles we needed, so we developed a program called Acquia U, which I led. And Acquia U, we took 8 aspiring web developers, and we gave them 6 weeks of training on Drupal, customer service, and Acquia. A really intensive program. People who didn't know very much or nothing about Drupal, who just wanted to learn, and we brought them up to speed. This is the group. And again, I'm not an expert in instructional design or anything like that. I'm just a loudmouth engineer. But this is really the best project of my career. And I have 3 simple points which I feel like sum up why I was successful. And I would say that it's this. When you have to choose between passion and a plan, always choose passion. When you have to choose between practicing something or learning about it, reading a book about it, always choose practicing something. When you have to choose something that's authentic, that's a real messy project, versus something that's very clean and easy to get right, choose the messy one. Be authentic. Those are the lessons. Let me go through the first one and what I mean by it. So passion over planning. When I started, I put together a syllabus, a long, painful, boring syllabus. And it was like all of this, don't read it. It's just an example of how much text there was. Key points, learning objectives, highlighted, whatever. And this is good. You have to do this, right? Plans are essential. But by week 4, we had pretty much thrown the plan away. The group adapted. They needed different things. And after one particularly long day where we really tired them out nicely, I asked them, they were sort of like, just their heads were spinning. And I said, okay, well, what do you guys want to do? We have these 4 things we could talk about, or anything else you suggest. We'll vote on it, and we'll do that. And one of them said, well, I want to learn more about Git. Git's the hot thing, and I don't really get it yet. I don't get it yet. I said, okay. And we were all tired. It was sort of like, beer time at the office. Yes, we have a keg at office. It's awesome. And so we said, why don't you guys just go up there and draw on the board how you think Git works? And so it was really fun. People drew all kinds of different stuff. I'll show you a few of them. Somebody had this. Someone had like some arms of Git God pulling down from the server cloud over there. Somebody had this whole thing with this puppet master Dries at the top, sort of doing the whole GitHub guy. Somebody had Larry the Git guy with his Gitter done cap. But then Andrew was the best. Andrew studied science at BU, atmospheric physics. He built a railgun. I don't know what he was doing at our company, but he was a really smart guy. Also a great artist. And he drew this parrot. He was kind of fooling around. He made this parrot. And you may not think a parrot has anything to do with a version control system. And if you thought that, you would be right. It has nothing to do with a version control system. But it turned out to be the most effective class I've ever given. And this is what we did. So we had the parrot, and then we said, okay, let's commit some changes to the parrot. I'm not speaking over anyone's heads here, right? You guys know version control systems? Most of you? Nodding? Good. Yeah. Okay. So we first commit, added attractive and compelling lashes. Added a fantastic hat to augment beauty. Added a mohawk to foster gender ambiguity. Right? Silly stuff. And we ended up with a parrot that looked something like this. You can see where the hair and the hat had a conflict at the top, right? Where two people committed them at the same time across the board. It was good fun. We had a lot of fun. Everyone was laughing by the end of it. And after that class, every single person knew exactly how Git worked. And then we did the same exercise with the parrot. We made a parrot.txt file. We started committing it to GitHub and changing it. Done. Something that usually takes several classes of hours long was done in an hour, just because we allowed people to follow their passion, explore, figure it out together, and have a little bit of fun. And so the lesson of this that I would say is, if you're working with a group and you're trying to get them to be responsible for their own learning, encourage revolution. Your goal as an instructor should be that your students make you irrelevant. They should be able to decide what they want to do, and you should facilitate them getting there. Encourage the revolution. Okay, next one, practice over theory. So I want to do now time for a little audience participation because we're hitting the 10-minute mark of attention. If you think that the figure on the left more accurately represents a software developer, raise your left hand. If you feel like the one on the right represents a software developer, raise your right hand. If you disagree with the person next to you, then you can hold hands because they'll be right next to each other. Yeah. Okay. So everyone who put up their left hand, please put it down. Who's the right-handed? The carpenter ones. Yeah. And the scientist ones? Nobody. You did, but then you put it back down because you know it's the wrong answer. I saw that. So I feel very strongly that this is what it is. Software development is a craft. There's computer science, which is different. That has an academic application, but in the workplace, it's a craft. You don't get to become a better carpenter by studying nails. You get it by swinging a hammer. It's the only way to get better at it. I firmly believe that. Some people disagree, but I think it's true. And so the way we started the program was, they landed up, they got their ID cards, we showed them where the loo was, where the coffee was, all that. And then we said, okay, here's Drupal, here's a little introduction. I want you to make a site, and I want you to interview 8 people at Acquia. I generated a list of 8 random people for the whole group. Excuse me. Could be anyone from the CEO down to the secretary. Every person got 8 individuals. Go interview them, make up some questions, and then create a page for each one with the interview, and make some way to filter by department and a couple of the requirements. Basically a little website about Acquia and who they meet. And they just had to jump in. We didn't guide them through step by step. We said, here's some resources, here's some people you can ask, go do it, you have 3 days. And they dove right into it. People had great questions. Any suggestions for office weaponry? Have you ever gone commando? If I could change one thing about Acquia, what would it be? And they made these great interviews, and they made connections, but also they really were forced to learn this software in a very brutal sort of way. They're very frustrated, they're very stressed out by it, but it was effective. They really got their stuff done by the end of the week. Week 2, some of these people had never seen a command line in their life. We said, okay, one day we did a 4-day course on command line, 4-hour course on command line, 4 hours on Git. And we said, okay, now take the site you built, export it from our SaaS thing, and get it onto your computer, and then put it onto Acquia hosting, which involved Git and loading MySQL databases, MySQL dump, all kinds of stuff they didn't know. And we just sort of watched them. We watched them struggle like new users would struggle. And they struggled. They didn't even get it done. And they were so frustrated, one of them almost quit at the end of the week. But the point is that struggle makes it stick. If it's not hard, you won't remember it. Your brain is wired to remember things which are difficult, which you spend a lot of effort on. That's what reinforces the pathway. And so we really focused on that, pushing people's boundaries, making them a little frustrated, keeping them on the edge of being so frustrated that they're going to quit. Like I said, there is no learning, just do. Work on authentic projects, and push your limits. Do something you can't do every time. Final one, authentic is more important than simple. So when you were in school, what kind of projects did you do, like in your, freshman year in college? Anyone have one? What's that? The easy one to do. If they give you 3 options, you'll always pick the sort of easy one. What type of projects did you get? Can you think of any, like example projects that are given to early CS students? I can think of some. They're often like, implement some basic HTML tag. It'll be like make a header tag. Implement a bubble sort, right? If you're science, that'll probably be like the first algorithm that you end up doing. Yeah, a simple website, build a for loop which increments a counter, that kind of stuff. Those are simple projects. They're totally irrelevant, right? You do that stuff, but that's not a project, right? That's not going to actually teach you how to be a professional. It doesn't even really prepare you for it very well. So one thing we did at Acquia U is we thought the values of the program should reflect the values of Acquia. Acquia is a very fast-growing company, but it's got a strong team mentality. People really work together very well. And we thought Acquia U should be the same. So we split the group into 2 different teams. Has anyone seen this movie, by the way? Kickball? You saw it? I'd never seen it, but the group had seen it. And so they named their teams the Lezas and the Fezas. I guess it's from the movie. Anyway, so you had Team Leza and Team Feza. And they had to go through the program as 2 different 4-person teams. And every week, and the teams, by the way, were totally mixed. Like, we had one team where a guy had already contributed to Drupal core, and there was another woman on the team who had never used a command line, had never used a programming language. So we had this, but she had a lot of marketing experience, and she had a lot of design experience. The teams were mixed, and we gave them the same lousy tools that the engineering team uses. This is Jira, for those of you who don't recognize it. And so they planned out their weeks. So every week, it would be like a sprint, and they'd get some projects that I'd give them. They'd make up some of their own projects. They'd plan it out like a real team. They'd have daily status meetings. It was like real work. And as much as possible, it wasn't facetious projects, like that first one with the interviews. They actually worked on real things in the company. So I went around and found people, and I was like, can I give you 4 useless interns for a week? I'm like, please, what do you have for them to do? And they'd give me stuff, and we'd manage them, and they would do their work. And it was messy, and setting it up was messy, and they'd make mistakes, and it would cause headaches, and customers might get angry occasionally. But ultimately, there's a really important lesson here. This is, and I'm not going to say it. I'm going to let this really intellectual bearded guy say it, so it sounds better. He's the distinguished professor of cognitive psychology, Robert A. Bjork. And he said, if information is studied so that it can be interpreted in relation to other things in memory, learning is more powerful. So what does that mean? That means that if you're learning to play guitar, you probably should play it in the place where you're going to perform, or you should play it with other musicians. If you learn to play guitar next to a parrot who's making sounds, your guitar is probably going to sound funny when it comes time to play. If you play it next to a drummer, you'll probably have better rhythm. If you're studying how to build a software program in a vacuum, like just a for loop, when it comes time and your customer says, I need you to build a login system that integrates with LDAP next week, that's not going to help you very much because you're not sitting in a classroom doing a for loop or a bubble sort and looking it up online in Google. You actually have a real problem. So if you learn that for loop in context of the normal way that you normally work in a team, planning projects, asking for help, looking out for your colleagues, you're more likely to remember that information when it comes time because it'll come time in that same environment. Make sense? Seems simple, but so often we miss it in education. We teach things way out of the context of how we expect them to be used at a later time. And so I would say learn in context. So I can take a break for questions. I was going to show a little video now. If you have any pressing questions. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Oh, you know what? One thing I did not set up. They told me there was audio here. Is it possible to plug that thing in? Sorry about that. Thank you. All right. Let's see if this works.
My train was basically akin to this. It was the original bridge of the Starship Enterprise. I could make stuff that looked nice.
Oops, sorry. Let me give you some context. So this video we put together, we did a demo at the end of every week. There was a demo. So the whole team demoed what they'd done for the week to the whole company. And at the last demo, we really had everyone in the company came, and they gave a short presentation each around what they had learned, where they were, and where they are now, and sort of demonstrated some of their larger projects. And this is an excerpt of that video, just to get a chance to meet the people.
My train was basically akin to this. It was the original bridge of the Starship Enterprise. I could make stuff that looked nice, and it seemed like it was really cool, but when you get down, it's basically cardboard and Christmas lights. Now I can create sites that are a little more like this, where I'm, of course, Captain Kirk.
So starting out, I was doing projects with atmospheric science, atmospheric physics, and I actually made a railgun. Here, I think I was a little overwhelmed.
Oh, it's not coming through on the
Kind of
screen.
like being a turtle, freaking out.
He's drawing a
in
turtle.
little shell. I would say that I'm probably still a little dismayed, but I'm at least a little more colorful. Okay. That was red.
My name is Erica Lajeski. I'm the dancer in the group. Actually, a BFA in dance and teaching, of all things, and a master's degree in nonprofit arts administration. So I'm the one who's never programmed. I've never heard of command line. I've certainly never used Git. I feel like my Drupal experience was this starter home. I have gotten into command line, and I have used Git, and I've been working in DevCloud and deploying down sandbox sites and working with a team.
Hi everyone, I'm Madhura Vadvarkar, and prior to coming to Acquia, I mostly had programming experience with C++ and such. I've learned how to patch. I can understand module development. So I think I've come long distance from where I was.
Yeah, I'm Mark Sakurada. About 9 months ago, that was myself in Haramsh, Afghanistan. So I've got a little bit of a colored, different background. So as a reservist, I was a independent developer. So the will code for food literally applies. Probably not superheroes yet, but we're dressed up and ready to take on the fight.
I'm Nathaniel Hoig. Studied environmental studies in college and picked up web development as a hobby. So the hawk sort of represents where I was. I was the expert, but I was also very much the lone person. I would say that I'm much more like a bat. Bats are communal. They have a lot more agility. For my bat metaphor here, to be able to hunt bugs.
So my name is Sam. I graduated with a degree in computer science from Brown University. This is just a lake. There's not really much to say about it. But yeah, this is the good part. So this is
Hydra.
So this is a Hydra. I like Hydras. So I like to think of Drupal as a Hydra. You can, if you want to, just walk up and start hacking away, but it's a really bad idea. If you're lucky, maybe you'll slice off a head, but it's going to regrow 2 more. In the case of a Hydra, you might want to bring sort of a flaming sword. So when you chop off the head, it will cauterize it and not grow another one. For Drupal, if you fix a bug, send it up to Drupal.org as a patch, and then that bug is going to stay dead.
Hi, my name is Tim Jordan. So I graduated from UMass Lowell with a bachelor's in fine arts. My main focus was web design.
Oh, sorry, I think we lost Tim. That was the end of it. But I thought that would be nice to see. There's a really diverse background of people who took part in the program. Is this thing on again? No, sorry. So it's a really diverse group of people who took part in the program. So yeah, just to summarize, and then I can share with you some specific techniques that we used. Focus on the environment, not the skills. Make sure it's fun. Make sure it's challenging, and make sure it's authentic. And people will learn. That's how the best hackers all learn. Honestly, like the best hackers taught themselves. Some of them have computer science degrees, but that's not why they're great. They're great because they taught themselves. And I hope we continue to build that into the Indian IT academic area, because I feel like a lot of it is very rote still, and it is not the way we'd like it to be. So with that, I'll say thank you and take any questions. Yeah, sure, we can keep going with that. So a few things we did. One was portfolios. So we called them UBs, right? Newbie, Acquia U, UBs. So every UB had their own portfolio site where they styled it themselves, and they had to keep track of every project. They had to blog every week, put out a screencast or a blog or something. They were busy. Like, we worked them to death. I'm not saying this is easy. And they put up blog posts talking about their work, demos of their work, things like that, and that was part of their evaluation. That was powerful because it forced them to maintain a level of polish because it was a public thing. They also built a team site, which is, you can check it out, u.acquia.com. They built this site, and it actually it brought in content from all of their blogs, aggregated it together, and it was promoted by our marketing team. So everyone who knows about Acquia is going to find out about this site. So they had to really bring a higher level of polish to their work that they're publishing there. That was really effective and gave them a bit of a community name and some exposure to that, some pride. Another big one was mechanical bulls. This was really cool. We came up with the idea to build a simulated customer site because we can't have them fooling around with real customers. So we built fictitious customers. We built a basic site, and we made up a backstory for it, which was that it's a YouTube awards site. So people upload their favorite videos, everyone votes on them, and then there's an award kind of thing. And we put together about 50 different requirements in the form of user stories. So they would say something like, as a marketing manager, I would like to be able to find a list of emails of everyone who submitted videos in the past week. Or, as the usability expert, I would like, the login form to also handle registration. Different features like that. Some very simple that could be configured via the Drupal user interface, and some which required some code. And so it was almost like a punching bag. They'd come in, they'd be like, okay, let me take a couple of these, and they'd work on them. And they'd try to, beat those fake problems, which were, real looking. This is really effective. We call it a mechanical bull, because it's like, in the US you have bull riding. A mechanical bull is like a fake bull. It's not a real one. Anyway, so like I said before, it's better to do authentic projects, but not every project can be authentic. So when you can't, then it's better to fake it. So fake authenticity if you have to, which is what we did here. And then for the final demo, each of the teams took the site, and we said, okay, now you do with what you know. Take what you know and make your own requirements. Make your own awesome YouTube you-win site. And so they made this. This is one of the groups. They built this one, which is really nice looking and a lot of new features in it. And this is good too because they were forced to execute as a team. So it wasn't just one person who could take it over and do it all. There was a technical component, a marketing component. There was design components, different things that drew out the talents of everyone on the team. So that was effective. Another one we had was mentors. So every UB had a dedicated mentor within the organization who would meet with them every week and would also meet with myself and my colleague who led the program with me. And they'd meet with us every week, the mentors, and discuss where people were at and what they needed and the help they needed. And it was someone they could come to safely and say, these guys are pushing me too hard, or I don't know if I can learn this, or I didn't ask a question, but I think that I didn't understand this yet. And it's that kind of safe place. Very effective as well. Another big one, like I mentioned earlier, is demos. So every week, the entire group we followed an Agile process. I don't know, some of you may know Agile, but essentially we plan out the work for the week, work it, and then on Friday there'd be a demo, and anyone in the company was invited to come see the demo. And like I said, that brought polish to the whole thing. People worked extra hard to make sure they didn't look bad in the demo. And it also gave the company a chance to get to know the individuals so that when they left Acquia U, and they've all left, they all have permanent jobs at Acquia now, they already had integration with the company. They already knew people, people knew them, they knew what they were capable of, and that was helpful in that way. So, yeah, that's about it. That's all I have there, but I'm happy to share other details or take questions now. And this is how you can get a hold of me, Twitter, my website, if you want to find me. So, yeah. To the audience, anything? No pressure. What's that? It's about 280 in 4 locations. Revenue is around 40 million. Acquia's business we're an open source, commercial open source support company. So like Enterprise DB is to Postgres or Red Hat is to Linux, Acquia is to Drupal. So we provide enterprise support and hosting. We also do cloud infrastructure stuff. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah. Good question. The question is, did we train the apprentices, the UBs, in any particular area, or did we just sort of let them guide their own learning? There's a combination of both. The business goals of the program were to staff our support team. So we were hoping that out of 8 people, we'd be able to keep at least 6 of them, 4 or 5 of them would go into support, and then 1 or 2 might go into professional services or engineering. That was the business goal. We ended up keeping everybody. So the primary thing was support, though. So we also trained on some customer service skills, troubleshooting skills. But it was more well-rounded, because in support, you typically need to be able to know a little bit of everything. You need to be able to solve different parts of the stack and debug. So, yeah. Sorry, I didn't get that. Did we integrate into the program? Yeah, so one of Acquia's main offerings is we offer a platform as a service for Drupal. So as a developer, you can just get a Git URL and upload your code, and we handle the scalability and the provisioning and the failover and all that stuff. We do it all in Amazon Web Services. So they had to learn a little bit of AWS stuff, but mostly they worked with our platform. We didn't really get them into the nitty-gritty of that because it's not relevant to their job most times. I'm not sure I understand what your question is, or what you're saying. I'm not sure if that's relevant to Drupal. I'm not really clear what the question is. Do you mean like from home? What kind of software? Yeah, I mean, so let me just clarify. So Drupal is a PHP-based framework for building websites and web applications. So it's not so much related that way. People develop on their laptops and they upload it to a web host somewhere. It's a pretty much enterprise software. It's not for personal use or anything. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like anything like that. What I said was, if we have to choose between one or the other, then I would say practice. I'm not saying theory is irrelevant. There's a certain amount of theory that's always required. But I would say my personal philosophy, what I found to be most effective in everything that I've taught, is that you should only give the minimum amount of theory possible before somebody can practice, and then give them practice. Yeah, I mean, you need to tell them something usually. But as I said, like most times as teachers, we err on the side of theory. We err on the side of telling them too much before we let them get their hands dirty. And I just feel like people can look like they absorb the knowledge. They can take a test and pass it, but it can easily be gone the next day because they didn't really struggle to make it stick. So that's why I feel that way. It's my own personal opinion. Yeah. For Acquia? Yeah. That's something we're still working on. Primarily, we partner with some of the global SIs in India, system integrators, and so they have clients who are doing large-scale Drupal deployments, and Acquia provides consulting and support services to Drupal developers and infrastructure. The infrastructure is, global through Amazon, but the support for developers, if the developers are in India, we need to be here as well.
No,
And that's primarily the model.
My question is, the business model is through partners or through system integrators, or it's a direct sales kind of a thing?
Oh, Acquia is the global model. So we don't do site development, so we only do support and strategic consulting. So we always work with a partner. Or the customer has their own internal IT team, one or the other, but we support them. So we do sell directly to customers with internal IT. We sell to customers who are working with other development shops, and then we also partner with organizations, go to market with them. So we'll go pitch a bid with, Capgemini, or we'll go pitch a bid with big digital agencies in the U.S., that kind of thing. So we do channel and we do direct as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the talk, and feel free to get in touch later.